All right, guys, Jeff here. I had an issue. I'm working on a 2013 EcoBoost, this F150 EcoBoost, and I had an issue where basically the truck was wanting to kind of halfway stay in fourth gear. And as you look up on the system, you'll see that the four-wheel drive vacuum system is that when the vacuum is absent, that's when four-wheel drive engages. And so I have my suspicions that it's this check valve right here that's leaking. If that doesn't do the trick, then it might be in this solenoid. But we're going to just start by replacing this check valve and hose assembly. So I've got the part here, and I'll give you a link of where you can get that in the bottom of these descriptions. But as you can see, this is just going to simply go in and out of that. So real quick, I'm going to go ahead and pull the old one out, which is, again, these are just kind of friction put on there. And so it takes a little bit just because the truck is a good 10 years old, and that comes into play with how good these seal on there. And there's that one. And let's get this guy off. There's that one. And then let's get this one off. So anyway, I took the whole solenoid down, but that's all right. So this one is on there pretty good. So there we go. So now that I've got that off, you really can't tell if the check valve's bad by just looking at it. The way to test it would be a vacuum pump. I looked at the cost of that, figured I had an 11-year-old truck and time to replace this kind of stuff anyway. It's not going to hurt anything to do that. A few, 15 bucks or so should get that job done. So this just clips in there like that, and I should probably wait until I get the new one back in place so you're not end up having to do things twice. But anyway, we're just going to press that on, and then we'll go give this a test run once we get this on there, because it's pretty frightening if that, since it is no vacuum engages the four-wheel. It takes vacuum to actually suck it out of four-wheel drive and keep it in two-wheel drive. So when you lose vacuum, you're going down the freeway and you all of a sudden engage your four-wheel drive. That's kind of a scary thing. So anyway, it makes sense because you in the absence of that vacuum, you pop in there. So I'm going to get this just funneled right back where it goes. Make sure everything's tight. I got one more down here to put on. This one might need to change directions. There we go. And voila. So as you can see, that's about as simple as a swap out as you're going to get. Most vacuum hose jobs like that are. You just want to make sure you check them all. You have good seating on that and do that. So I'm going to take it for a real quick test spin, see if that did it for us. Okay, so replacing just the check valve didn't work. So I'm going to be swapping out the solenoid. And as you can see, this is the part that I needed to do. I've gone ahead and unhooked the clip there. The part I bought, the part that I bought came with this shroud that it actually clipped in, but my model, it doesn't have room for that. It just slips in right here. So I'm just going to replace it. I took the shroud off and just using the factory mount that goes here to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and install that there and make sure it's cinched up. And I'm going to do this from bottom to top just to make sure I have the most space that I need. And get that off. I'm going to grab a screwdriver real quick. Just so I don't pull or break anything, just kind of help it along the way there. And pull that off like that. See if I can't get that guy out. There it goes. Had quite a bit of vacuum on that one. So anyway, so let's see, get this back in. Bottom. Push that on. And get the middle one on. And get the clip plugged in. Alright, so now that we've got this solenoid replaced, I'm going to take it for a test spin, and hopefully that solves that problem of the lack of vacuum it takes to hold it in two-wheel drive rather than trying to go into four-wheel drive. So give me a minute and I'll let you know how it worked out. Alright guys, Jeff here. Just wanted to give you the lowdown on this little Mighty Vac. This is a vacuum tester and also a bleeder, so you can bleed vacuum lines and bleed brake lines and things like that. I have a problem with my four-wheel drive, and so I was just doing a little vacuum test on this. Way that this works is that you're able to manually pump this up. As you can see, you just squeeze, and then if you look at your pressure gauge, it'll tell you whether or not that's holding. And right now this is showing that I'm holding just over 20 pounds of pressure here, and it has a real quick release valve. So if I just click this button down here on the bottom, you can see that that dial just went down to 0. So I'm going to go ahead and pump it back up. Let's see if you can, yeah, so I'll go ahead and pump this back up. It comes with a lot of different attachments. So you can see I'm just plugging this into this hose that's attached to the little handheld pump. And I'm putting it in the tube that I suspect is leaking. And what I've got going here is, you know, it's not engaging the four-wheel drive the way it needs to, so I'm just testing if I've got a vacuum leak. And as you can see, that's actually pumping up really nice, which, to be honest, is not what I wanted to see. I kind of wanted to see this pump up and then lose pressure, because then that would start to help me diagnose really a lot faster what's going on. But that's what it does. So you can see I've got that pumped up, holding over 20 pounds, and that's actually really where it needs to be. So I'm going to just set a timer on that, so I can come back and look to see if I'm really losing any pressure. But really nice. It's doing exactly what it needs. You can see it comes with different things in here, including, let's go ahead and take that lid off and this thing out of the way, but it has a little reservoir here that you can use this to catch brake fluid. If you're trying to bleed the brakes, you've got the caps there to do that, and then you have different size attachments, so you're able to catch and test different things. So I looked at a lot of other vacuum testers, and this one seemed to be the most universal. I had a need right now where I needed to test vacuum, but over the years I've bled plenty of brakes, and to be able to do it by yourself instead of having somebody come in and help. So definitely a good saver. And so the whole time we've been talking, that has not even lost nary an ounce of air, maybe a little bit, but not enough. So again, not really what I wanted to see, but this tool is going to help me isolate really where the problem could possibly be. Okay, so I've gone ahead and attached my little vacuum tester to the actual line that's coming from the solenoid and the vacuum pump. And I'm going to go ahead and try to pump this up one-handed here, and we'll see if we can't get some reading. And what I noticed on this is that, yeah, I could get pressure, but you know, it wants to slowly leak, which means that there's some kind of leak in it here. Well, as I was inspecting this, let me get my light where you can see. This isn't always the easiest thing to do, to film, try to help people out, but man, it makes it hard, doesn't it, if you've ever done this. So anyway, as I followed this line up, okay, so I was diagnosing this. I've done my pressure test both on my IWE as well as on my vacuum lines, and I found out that, you know, the symptom was when I was turning hard to the left, that's when I would get the problem with it wanting to kind of go into four-wheel drive. So it was kind of perplexing to me that I was losing pressure only when I turned to the left. Well, when I finally got to be able to get a visual on these hoses here, I actually found the culprit. And as you can see right here, right up here, as I go to manipulate this hose right here, you can see it's cracked. In fact, it's crazy that I was even able to hold any vacuum seal at all. So there's the problem, that vacuum line is dry rotted and cracked, and that's going to need replacing. So that's why when I'm turning to the left, I'm splitting that crack open, I'm losing vacuum, and that is the culprit. So I will be replacing that. All right, guys, so finally got to the bottom of it. I'm going to show you once I get underneath the truck what had happened, but to the four-wheel drive, as you know, that's what we've been working on. And so replacing most of the IWE components except the actual IW hub down at the wheel, because that at this point doesn't seem to be the culprit. And I did a temporary fix until I got this part. This part looks a little intimidating, but really all it is a bunch of hoses. The good thing that I saw when the part came was it came with all the body anchors in it. I was thinking I was going to have to preserve those as I pulled them out, and you know how that goes. You're going to break a million of them. Plus, they're actually zip tied in here really good, which meant I would clip them and re-zip tie them. So I was actually pretty pleased to see that they're already routed. So this whole part, you can see there, that's the extent of it. It's just a bunch of tubing, and I'm going to get to the installation. I think I will start up top here with the solenoid, the connection to the solenoid, and drop it down through and start pulling it down from underneath. Once I get underneath, I'm going to show you what I did to just keep the truck running until the part came. It probably would have lasted. I probably could have left the patch that I had in it, but my concern was that if that tubing, where it did actually crack, all of this tubing, you can see that several feet of tubing, if any other tubing, and I actually got lucky to have it do what it did, because it just didn't throw it into four-wheel drive on one side of the truck. So that was, like I say, fairly lucky that it worked the way that it did. And I just didn't want to take a chance. So I'm just going to replace the whole tubing from the solenoid, which we're going to connect coming off of this right here. This guy is what we're going to, that's the start of the replacement, and that is right there. So that's where we're going to start with this. I'm going to feed it down through, and then we'll go from there. Okay, so as you can see, what I found was that this was dry rotted and cracked. Oops, let me zoom back out on that. So yeah, I'd found that it was dry rotted and cracked right here. So what I did just temporarily was I put a hose barb to connect the two. I actually just cut it all the way through, and then I put a couple of hose clamps on it just to hold it together. And then I used another hose clamp just to go into the body anchor. But I knew that was going to give me kind of that seal I needed to keep the truck in two-wheel drive. So, you know, that was the fix. Like I say, that fix will probably hold. I'm just not sure if any of these other hoses will actually, dry rot any further at any other point. So I'm going to go ahead and replace that now. Right, I'm going to try to keep the camera rolling best I can underneath the truck. It's definitely not the easiest thing, but let's see. As long as you can see something, I guess that's all that matters. But anyway, so I'm taking off these little body anchors. I already pulled that one out, and I've got, I'm just basically following this thing up, and I'm using my tool here.
I didn't get that. Could you try again?
I don't know if you can see. Yeah, it looks like you can. So just using my body armor tool.
I'm not sure I understand.
Yeah, my watch is trying to help me. So helpful. There we go. So I got that one free, and there's one up here you can see what I'm doing here is now that I've got the bottom one connected, I'm removing it and pulling everything up through. So here comes the old tubes and hoses, body clamps off, and then I'm just kind of going in backwards, not backwards order, but I'm going in the order in which I'm able to get this and trying to keep everything straight. So I'm going to do this hose here, clip it up and go from there. All right guys, just to kind of recap, so the vacuum line coming from the solenoid here, going down to the left tire or the driver's side tire, this vacuum line had developed a little crack in it, and this is the part that connects right to the IWE, the little diaphragm locking hub. And as you recall, it takes vacuum actually to keep the truck into two-wheel drive. When you click to four-wheel drive, it blocks the vacuum from the solenoid closes, therefore no vacuum's getting, and then that diaphragm releases air and then it engages the four-wheel drive. So it's a pretty cool system, but this hose had developed a little bit of a crack in it, and every time I turned really hard to the left, that crack would open up. Now what you're seeing in here is I actually just until I could get the replacement hose, took me a couple of days to get it where I'm at. So just so I could drive it, I actually just put a hose barb in there. This secondary line is actually a vent tube, and as you can see, it comes way up the old hose. It comes way up here past that, just so you don't get any water if you're underwater and whatnot, and you're not sucking water down into that IWE diaphragm. So anyway, the replacement of it was not very difficult. In fact, it only required 2 tools. Really only one, just depending on how you do it. But I was just using let's see, yeah, I was using this guy right here. This guy, just one of those plastic retainer clip removers to go along and pull it out. Kudos to the part manufacturer. They had every length of this, including every single body clamp, right down to the millimeter where it needed to be, and also in the orientation that it needed to be, so I didn't have to put any undue stress on it. The actual line took a different course than I thought it would. It actually goes down, hits that first driver's side wheel, then it comes along this section right here and goes to the front, down underneath the frame, and then up underneath. The really saving grace of this project is that right where it ran was right where the plastic kind of malleable piece of body armor clips to the metal body armor, and once you clip that out of the way, you actually had free access to it. It does go basically the width of the truck, and just like you'd expect. And then the most challenging part of this literally was coming up from this side, because you have this whole battery blocking it, whereas on this side you don't. You have free access to it. But you can see it goes right along the top of that and then back down the same orientation that it does on the driver's side as the passenger side. So anyway, a little bit more challenging than I thought. I don't know, to be honest with you. I mean, I cut it as I went, so I didn't have to pull it all the way through. But to be honest with you, I'm not sure if starting on this end and feeding it that way like I did was the best, or starting on the passenger side and feeding it. I really think it's probably 6 one way, half a dozen another. It's better if you had 2 people. I did it by myself, 1 person underneath, 1 person on top, kind of just moving it along. So anyway, all in all, the fact that you're only having to use really this tool is, that's pretty cool. I did not have to take any components off. I was able to fish everything through without taking or removing anything. So anyway, I did already take it for a test spin. The problem seems to have been fixed. I did put it in 4-wheel drive, so I know it does shift in and out of 4-wheel drive. And then I also got it back into 2-wheel drive, made sharp turns left and right, and no vacuum leak. So anyway, happy with that. I did wind up replacing the solenoid. I also replaced the check valve in that hose, both of which, again, you know, the splice that I made on this hose, you know, would have worked for a long time. My concern was, you know, just how brittle, and you can see, you know, I think I was right. This hose is definitely brittle, and what caused the crack in the first place, I think, could be very easily duplicated in other places. So rather than take the chance, I just replaced all of the components of the IWE except the actual diaphragms in the wheels. And you know, I'm into it, probably $120 in solenoids, check valves, and the actual vacuum hose. I'll put links to the parts that I use to do that. So if you're turning, or you have any kind of situation where you're getting the 4-wheel drive wanting to engage, you're losing vacuum somewhere, and that's either in a connection or a hose. And ultimately, that's what caused me to go on this journey of replacing everything, was to, you know, I could tell it wanted to go on 4-wheel drive, especially when I turned to the left. And that's what got me looking. So I found it, fixed it, all done. Hopefully this video will save you some time in diagnosing your problems as well.